are you today?
I'm good, I'm great. So what's your name?
My name is Bob Coon. Let's see, I recently relocated to Oklahoma after having been gone for over 60 years.
60 years?
Yeah.
And what have you been doing in that time period, in that time frame?
Well, we moved around all over the place, and eventually I wound up in the military and saw a lot of places around the world. And then when I got out of the military 35 years ago, I decided I wanted to teach quilting. So I've been teaching quilting now for 34 years.
So what got you into quilting?
My grandmother Wald always had a quilt set up on a quilting frame whenever we would visit her on the farm just south of Lone Wolf. And so that's where my love and appreciation came from. And I just took off from there.
So when did you start quilting? At what age?
My age, let's see, 32.
At the age of 32.
When I went to Germany.
So how did you feel when you had your first quilt? Like, did that help? How was that for you? Your first quilt?
The first quilt I actually finished, I didn't really finish a quilt for about another 10 years. But I'm really thrilled with being able to accomplish it easily and learning how to do different things. So in doing the quilting, what I find is if I make a quilt and I learn how to do something that would make it easier for other people to do, I like to show them how to do it an easier way.
Can you use a quilt to tell a story?
You sure can. A lot of quilts tell a story. So if you take a look at some of the quilts that I've shown here, you can see some of them that have some significance to them, like the Drunkard's Path. That came out of the women's temperance time frame in the country. The swallows came from the birds. So a lot of the quilts have an idea that came from someplace else that they just translated into fabric.
Apart from your grandmother, whose quilt has also spoken to you? You've seen this person's quilting and wow, this is so beautiful.
There's a couple of art quilters out there that I really admire. One of them is Katie Pasquini, and I can't pronounce her last name. I think she's out at the Santa Fe area. She'll take a picture like that and convert it into a wall hanging quilt. She's been around probably, let's say I taught with Katie back in the early 2000s at a quilt show in Southern California. But she does fantastic work. There's just so many of them out there that do different things other than I do. I'm a very traditional quilter. I guess it comes from my military background. I like left, right, left. I like things lined up properly. I can't just chop things up. There's a guild in Oklahoma City called the Modern Quilt Guild, which does a lot of more modern designs, taking traditional patterns and just changing them around a bit.
So what makes your own type of quilting very special and different from any other quilters?
In my years of teaching, the one thing that I do get from people signing up for my class is my ability to teach precision, how to get things to line up properly, and sharp points don't lop off points on stars, things like that. How to get my 4 patches where the intersections line up properly. You know, there's a woman out by the name of Eleanor Burns. She has a series called Quilt in a Day. You can't do a quilt in a day. If you do, it winds up looking like something that you just threw together. And I'm too, can I say this, anal?
Yeah.
I want things dressed. I want them nice and sharp. I want it to be visually pleasing. I don't want people coming up and saying, you didn't get the intersection lined up. You lopped off a point. I just thought it would be a good way to introduce myself to the area and let people know what is available for them if they're interested in learning how to do it.
So what is your favorite instrument when it comes to quilting? Like, what's your favorite quilting instrument?
Well, you definitely have to have a good sewing machine. And in my years of teaching, I find that the students who have the less expensive machines are the ones who fight more with the machine. So you can get a good machine for around $600. That sounds like an awful lot, but when I bought my first machine back in 1977, I paid $1,000 for it. And I'm still using it.
What's the brand?
FOF. There are so many good machines out there. When you buy a machine, just go in and take the fabric that you want to sew on and take it in, because they'll demonstrate on some really stiff fabric which you'll never sew on at all. So take in, if you want to sew on jeans, take in some jean fabric. If you want to sew shirts, take in some shirt fabric. But think about the questions that, why are you buying the machine? What is your ultimate goal? Just like anything else that's sold commercially, they'll try to oversell. Most places will have an opportunity where you can buy the cheaper one and trade it in on a new one that has more features to it. You know, I've never married, so I have no children. I have no grandchildren. I have no nieces and nephews to do fancy embroidery work. So the embroidery aspect of a sewing machine was never something that I wanted to consider. And that's one of the things that makes the machines nowadays so expensive, is all those computerized aspects.
So what's your advice to quilters? Like, so anyone who wants to go into quilting?
My advice is I'm not up to date with technology, but I don't think that you learn how to quilt by going online to learn how to do it. I want somebody who can respond to me immediately when I have a question. So if you have an opportunity to take a class from somebody, take a class from somebody that knows how to do it. That way you can run into a problem that 10 other people in class might have had that never bothered to ask, but now you're going to ask it and they'll find out. So you learn more by taking a class and listening to all the answers to all the other students' questions and how to learn how to do things properly.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.